and welcome to My Own Worst Enemy. It's time to start another playthrough, and we are going to be looking at and playing through Horse and Musket Dawn of a New Era. This is designed by Sean Chick, and it is from Hollandspiel. You can see that we are back to Tabletop Simulator. I do not own the actual physical copy of this game. I do own the print and play version. I bought all three of the print and play versions. There's volumes. This is the first one, and there's a 2 and 3. Wish I'd bought the actual physical copy. Actually, I do like this game, and maybe that might be something I want to add to my collection at some point because it is pretty cool. Pretty cool game. It compares to Command and Colors or Hold the Line in the same sort of setup as you might see in those games where you have a battlefield and there are some tiles that you know, depending on what scenario you're running, you'll put tiles down and then you'll put your units down and you'll play through a scenario. So it's very similar look to those games, but a little different in the way it plays. And of those games I mentioned in this one, I kind of am starting to prefer Horse and Musket over the other two because of some of the ways. Well, you'll see when we get into gameplay. Some of the way that you actually control your side, I kind of prefer. But before I do that, as I do with any game, let's just a quick overview. Like I said, this is a print and play game. I have skimmed through the rule book. Well, more than skimmed. I've read the rules pretty thoroughly. It's not a complicated game. It's rules light, I would describe it. Pretty straightforward, easy to learn, and fairly easy to play and fairly quick to play. So just as an overview, I'll start with some things that I didn't like about the game itself. Minor quibbles, I assure you. And the first thing would be I'm not too thrilled with the counter art. And if you look at, these are just very basic. There's not a lot of information on here, which isn't the biggest fault. It's just I'm not sure I like the way they have the units displayed with these logos. And if you come over here, this is a turn track sheet. It explains what these logos mean. I just think there could have been done a little bit better. That's just me. Like I said, it's a minor quibble. I just would like to see a little bit better artwork on the counters and the map board. I kind of would like to see a little more detail, maybe more grassy looking plains or something here to kind of make this look a little more, I don't know, aesthetically pleasing. Maybe they did it this way because it makes the counters and the different terrain stand out more. Could be, I don't know, but just kind of wish it looked a little bit nicer. And maybe the actual physical copy does look a little bit nicer. I don't know. I will mention that I am playing with the rules that came with this print and play. They are dated, where did it go? 15th day of December in the year of our Lord 2017. So there may have been revisions to this. There may be errata for this that came after 2017 for this first edition. I don't know. I'm going to be using what came with the print and play, and we'll see how that works. The rule book itself, there's a little bit of scatter in my opinion. Some of the rules, it might have been a case of where it would be duplicating some statements, but I think it should have been done. Let me think of an example. Like when they're talking about, oh gosh, I think one of the things I had to look for is they're talking about leaders. And so if you have a leader with a unit, you can reduce its command points by 1. It gets mentioned under one section that talks about, let me see if I can find it real quick. When they talk about command action points, it gets mentioned that leaders can reduce a unit's command action points by 1 if he's stacked with them. It kind of gets lost in that. There's another section where you have leaders, and it would have been nice to see it maybe repeated there. And it is on one of these player A charts, so it's not completely lost in that one area. And just would have been nicer, I think, to see it in in both places. It kind of reiterates that the fact that you get to use the leader for that purpose. And then another thing that was kind of, and this is nitpicky again, but it's on page 4, it's where they talk about, where did it go? Let me see if I can read this to you. Was it page 4 or section 4? I think it was page 4. I'm scrolling down. And yeah, so we're talking about command action points again. And it says, as units perform actions, you reduce the command points marker down to show that they're taking their actions. And then the final sentence says, when the marker, the cap marker, when the marker reaches 0, the current player's turn is over. But it's kind of unclear, do you have to use all of your command action points, or can you just, go down to, say, 3 left and just decide I'm done. I'm going to just discard those points. And they don't carry over. So I know they don't carry over, but it's just that it seems like to me, the way it's stated, they're saying, oh, you got to use all your command action points before the turn ends. And I don't think that's the case. It's just a little unclear to me. But overall, like I said, minor nitpicks with that. It's just very minor. The rule book is well written. And it is easy to go through. So that is all I am going to say about the components, the overview of the game itself. I will make one other mention. This is, by the way, we are going to be playing through, this is I forget which scenario this is, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, I can't remember. But it's Killiecrankie, July 27, 1689, Slaughter at Sundown. And I just wanted to and I'll put this in the link. I'll put it in the link below. When I was looking at this battle, because one thing about war gamers, I think we pretty much history and war games go hand in hand. So naturally, I sought out this battle. I'm not familiar with it. This battle of Killiecrankie, and I came across this website, and it is called the Soldiers of Killiecrankie. And there is a gentleman on this website named James Rattray, and there's several videos where he is actually at the battlefield where this battle took place, and he does an outstanding job of walking you through this battle and kind of telling you what happened and how it happened, and very entertaining. So I highly recommend that if you have any interest in the history of this battle, that you head over to Soldiers of Killiecrankie and just read through it and watch those videos. Just good stuff. So with that said, I will now talk a little bit about an overview of the components themselves as how they relate to actual gameplay. So if you look at, let's see, let's zoom in here a little bit. So if we look at these counters, if we look at these units, first thing you know is at the top here, it has the counter type. So this is, elite infantry. This was the Highlanders. Where's a different one? Here's a Dragoon. So these are the types of units. And like I said, the image below also kind of corresponds to that. You can look on that chart again. It'll show you, that this is an elite infantry. That's a Highlander. That's a Dragoon. It's just double information, if you will, text and graphics on the counters themselves. So that's your unit types. This number that is this number below the pictures there, this is what they call your morale points. And morale points, these are not strength points. That's a very important concept. This is morale. And so what it means is as a unit takes a hit, its morale will be reduced. Like this Highlander, say he takes a hit, he will go from 2, oops, where am I going here? He will go from 2 down to 1. And if he takes another hit at 1, he's eliminated. And usually when you eliminate a unit, it's a victory point for your side if you eliminate your enemy unit. Something else to keep in mind. That's about one of the main ways you'll get victory points in this game. So these morale points are very important for gameplay. If you lose half of these morale points, what happens is in combat, your effectiveness will be reduced in combat if you're down to half your morale points. There are ways of getting these morale points back up, and that's through these leaders. They can rally units that have low morale points if they're in the same hex as the unit, and neither the leader nor the unit has moved. They could rally without rolling. It's an automatic rally. They could rally these guys back up 1 morale point per turn. So, and in this scenario, like you can look at these infantry units on the government side, the Williamites. They're starting at 3. The scenario will tell you to where to start your unit's morale points. So they're starting a little bit weaker. A full line infantry usually starts at 4, but for this scenario, we're starting at 3. If they take another hit, there's another counter that will pull out that will take them down to 2. So that's morale points. And what else do we need to say? So the leaders. Let's look at the leaders real quick. So you have your leader. This number that is up here in the corner, this is leader effectiveness. Basically, it's the quality of the leader, and the lower this number, the worse the leader is. So this is a let's see, this is a gifted commander. So there's one. It starts from 0, goes up to 4, and a level 2 is called a gifted commander. So not so great. He's kind of mediocre. You'd want a leader to be 4 to be at his absolute best, and you don't want a leader at 0 because that's the worst. So we have Claverhouse up here, who is if I remember John Graham, I think that's who that actually is. And then Mackay down here is horrible. He's 1. That's says that's a competent commander. He's reliable when faced reliable, but when faced with a great commander or genius, will usually lose. So not a very good commander at all here. This Mackay, he is not that great. So historically, the Jacobites did win this battle, and I suspect that when we do this playthrough, that's going to happen again. But who knows? You never know. And so I talked about there are different types of units, and there are certain special rules will apply to each type of unit. In the case of Highlanders can actually charge. That's kind of a special thing they can do. And if they get flipped, they lose half their morale points. They do not take their combat effectiveness does not decrease. So if we have a look over here at unit attributes, you can see that it'll tell you here Highlanders may withdraw from infantry close combat, must be 1 hex away to charge. Here's another thing where it needs to be a little clearer. This does not apply. We're playing what's called, if you look at the scenario, it says to use the small battles chart. So this is a small battle. And if you're playing in a small battle, the rulebook tells you Highlanders can actually, they have to be 2 hexes away to charge, or they can be 2 hexes away to charge. So that's kind of another little nitpicky thing. It charged by horsemen, morale passes on 1 through 4. So all these units have special abilities that you need to be aware of when you're playing through these. We're only going to be dealing with elite infantry, Highlanders, regular infantry, and I think it was dragoons. So those are ones we need to be aware of. There are some special scenario rules. I don't believe any of these are in this particular scenario. We'll make sure I'll check before we get, too far into it. What else? Let me look at the rule book here real quick. We've talked about the types of units, what the numbers mean, the leaders. So the game turns sequence. Well, stacking first. Let me not get too far. So stacking, basically, it is based on terrain, and the rule of thumb is you can have 2 units stacked in a hex, so long as they are not the same type of unit. So You could not have two line infantry units stacked together, but you could have a dragoon and a line infantry stack because they are not the same type of unit. So, and terrain will also tell you, if you look at the terrain chart, and where did the terrain chart go? It will also give you some stacking restrictions. So if you're in a river, the limit is 1. You can only have 1 unit in the river. So that is stacking. A game turn sequence, the way this will work is very straightforward. Player A will roll for command action points. So a scenario will tell you how many command action points a side will get. So here you can see the Williamites will get 3 command action points at the start of every turn. The Jacobites will get 4. So at the start of every turn, these guys will get 3 and these guys will get 4. And so what you do, the first thing you do, player A, when a turn begins, it'll tell you who player A is. You will roll a d6, and depending on what you get, you will add that many more command action points to what you're starting with. So if the Jacobites rolled a 6, they would add 3 to that 4, and they would start with 7 for this turn. And you will play until you burn all your command action points, or you choose just to decide you're done. I'm going to turn it over now to the player B. And then player B will do the same thing. Player B will roll a d6 and then add whatever extra command action points he gets to his starting command action points. And the command action points are how you will do things in Horse and Musket. And there's a play a chart that kind of tells you exactly what you can do. It costs nothing to move a leader. You can store command action points with a leader, and that ties back into their ratings. So this leader could store 2 command action points because he is a rating 2. This one can only store 1 because he is a lowly 1. And then it takes 1 command action point to move or fire. You cannot do both unless there's a special rule that says you can. Army commanders. So army commanders, there's different types of leaders in these scenarios. This particular scenario, these are both army commanders because they have a black 1 or a black 2. The number's black, so it tells you it's an army commander. If it were white, just a regular commander, but these are army commanders. So they can, an army commander, let's see, it's player A, the first player to go in a turn, can actually attempt to seize the initiative. And we'll talk more about that later. And some of these other things we'll talk about later too. There's a lot of actions here you can take. Just be aware that it costs command action points to take these actions. And, depending on what you want to do, you must spend those action points to do it. Pretty straightforward. What else? So we talked about command action points, combat. So the way combat will work, you have, and like I said, this is a small battle. So we have to use the small battles chart. There is a grand battles chart and just a battles chart, which is your average size battle. But if you look at these charts, they'll have combat information here that's important. And so these ranges are basically what you need to roll to hit in combat. So if a unit is range 1 away, and that's basically adjacent, you would need to roll a 7, 8, or 9 to score a hit. Move back to 2 hexes away, you have to get a 9 to hit. And also, you're using d10s to roll, and a 0 on the d10 is a 0. It's not a 10, so that's why it only goes up to 9. So basically, you got to roll a 9 for this line infantry if you're 2 away, and he can't even hit at range 3. So as you can tell from just looking at this chart, this is very, very close combat warfare here. You're basically right up on your opponent, which is reflective of the time. So that's the way combat's going to work. Movement. Generally, units can move 1 hex per turn. Again, that's on the The battle chart, it'll tell you the movement rating of your units. So say most of them are 1, but you'll have Dragoons, for example, which are in this scenario, they can move 3. And if you hit a particular type of terrain, you can actually be forced to stop. So if our Dragoons were to run into a woods hex after moving 1 space, they would have to stop. Line of sight also comes into play. Basically, you have to have clear line of sight to your target. You cannot fire through hills or woods, for example. So we will see examples of that, I think, based upon what we have here on the board. What else? Let's take a look at the scenario itself. Like I said, this is the Battle of Killiecrankie. We do have the Williamites versus the Jacobites. So victory conditions, in this case, it will be strictly Jacobites will win if they eliminate 4 of the Williamites, basically. So, because remember I said you eliminate a unit, you're going to get a victory point. In addition to that, they have to do it in 10 turns or less, and their leader must survive. So Claverhouse must survive. And basically, the Williamites win by keeping the Jacobites from doing any of that. So they just got to hold on. And so it's going to be 10 turns. So we have our turn track here. We will follow along there. We talked about Mackay and Claverhouse being the army commanders. There's an asterisk here, and I'm not really sure exactly what that asterisk is for. I think, well, I'll have to look that one up before we begin. I'm not sure what that is. Again, it would have been nice to maybe have something calling out exactly what that means. I'm sure they do in the scenario book. It's escaped my mind. That's more my fault than the game's fault. But okay, so what else? I think I've walked you through the game turns, the actions, the terrain, command action points, terrain chart. Yep, the battles chart. One thing I didn't mention yet is morale checks. So you do know that this is the morale. So morale checks are called for under certain circumstances. These are Highlanders, and so if a Highlander were to charge, say this line infantry, if he charges, he chooses to charge, and he could do it from here because he's 2 out, so he could charge, then this line infantry unit would have to pass a morale check to hold his position and stand his ground. So if he passed his morale check, and to pass a morale check, you would have to roll your current morale or higher. So he would have to roll a 3 or higher to pass that check. I think it's higher. I'm looking, make sure I'm not telling you wrong here. No, I'm sorry. That's backwards. So you want to roll lower than your current morale rating. Too many rules in my head. So, and there are things that can modify this. This elite infantry is on the hill, so he would actually get +1 to his morale for being on the hill. So his morale would be a 4. And so if, say, this Highlander charged, he would need to roll a 4 or less to pass his morale check, to stand his ground, and return fire at this charging Highlander. So morale is important. And there's some different units have different morale checks that will need to be made depending on what circumstance you are in. So while I've got the rule book out here, let me flip through. I think I've covered most of the main rules anyway. Charges, we've talked about charges, retreats, and withdrawals. So I guess I should have mentioned if he fails his morale check, then he would be forced to, after taking the attack, he would be forced to withdraw. So if he had failed his morale check, this Highlander charged and he failed, he would have to retreat off of that hill as a result of failing that. And so leaders, let's see, there's a leaders section. We've talked about seizing the initiative and storing cap. Also, they can add morale to a unit if they're in the same hex as the unit that they're trying to rally. So leaders can die in combat, so that's something we'll have to pay attention to. When either player rolls a natural 5 during combat on the D10, there is a chance that the leader will be eliminated. And so we will have to watch out for that. And if you lose a leader, you're going to gain a victory, or if you eliminate a leader, you're going to gain a victory point. There are some special rules for units. We talked about those. We talked about the victory conditions. And beyond that, there are more rules. There are, I guess you call them advanced rules, starting in section 13 of the rule book that we are not going to use. And those have to do with column formation and facing. So facing in this scenario will not really be a factor. There's some nationality special rules, and there's a ton of optional rules that we are not going to be using, but at some point I do intend to use those because they're really interesting optional rules. And like I said, this is just the first volume, so there's many more these rules get added, I guess, as you add these volume 2, volume 3 to the game. So let's see. We're going to track our victory. I will track the Jacobites down here. The government troops, the Williamites, we will track them up here. And I think that's just a very quick, good overview of what we're going to be doing here. I don't think I've missed anything. I think, yeah. So I guess what we will do, I'm going to take a slight pause here. And when I come back, we will begin the playthrough of this, starting with turn 1. Okay, let's go ahead and start turn 1 of the Battle of Killiecrankie. Before I do, just a quick note down here. I said I didn't know what this asterisk meant after the leader name. In this case, the army commander. That asterisk simply means that in the counter mix, there is actually a portrait on the counter for this leader. And that's why that asterisk, that's all that means. I don't know why Mackay doesn't have an asterisk. I think it probably should, because there is Mackay does have his own counter, so he has his portrait in there. If it didn't have a portrait, it would just simply be a leader symbol like this with the number 2 or 1, or 0 through 4 is what I'm trying to say. So that's all that means. So let's jump right in. We've got some more learning to do as we go along. I'll explain things as they happen. So the first thing we do, there's the turn sequence is here on the player's A chart. Very simple. Player A goes, then player B goes, basically. Player A is going to roll to determine how many extra command action points will get added to the starting amount. So if you look on this chart, you roll 1d6, it will tell you how many command action points to add. So in this scenario, player A is the Jacobites, so they're going to roll first. And the Williamites are going to be the second, player B. They'll be the second ones to go. Again, the victory conditions are for the Jacobites to get 4 victory points in 10 turns or less, and Claverhouse must survive. And of course, the Williamites must prevent that. So, let me see here. I'm trying to, I want to grab a copy of my rule book just to have it on hand. I'm sure we're going to have to refer to that, so I am just getting that. Okay. All right, so the rule book is in hand, and we are ready to start. So let's begin with the Jacobites. So they start with 3 cap automatically, and now we're going to roll the d6 to see how many additional cap they'll get this turn. They roll a 2, so we look at the cap chart down here. A 2 will give them 2 caps. So they will start this turn with 5 total. And this is one of the things that I kind of like a little bit more than, say, something like Command and Colors. I like the cap system because you have a lot more control over what your side's doing. And I think that's important in a game like this. So you'll see as we play how getting these extra cap points through that die roll, it can really change the whole course of the battle. So let's start. I'm going to kind of look at the map a little bit, see how I want to proceed here with these Highlanders. Now, we talked about the morale and some of this stuff briefly, but I'm going to go into a little more detail here. So, and looking at what I can do, one of the things I could do, I've got 5 cap. It costs 2 cap to charge, and these units are within range of a Highlander charge. They have to go 2 or 1 hexes to do a charge, conduct a charge. And so this one, for instance, I could have this one, I could have him charge this unit. So I could have him charge this elite infantry. Now, the reason why I may not want to do that is because when you charge a unit, it can be pretty brutal. So what happens is, if I had this Highlander charge this elite infantry, what would happen is the elite infantry would have to make a morale check. And if he passed that morale check, he would get to conduct defensive fire before the Highlander even finished his charge. And that's bad in this situation, more so because elite infantry, this elite infantry is on a hill, which will increase his morale by +1 to 4. So he has to roll a 1 through 4 to pass that check. And then if he does his defensive fire, and if we look over at these special unit attributes, elite infantry can roll an extra D10 in combat. So that would be bad. And also, if they rolled 3 D10, and all they have to get is, well, in this case, it's elite infantry. So we check the chart, the small battles chart, elite infantry at range of 1. So 7 to 9 hits, and, they get that extra die. So 7 to 9. So that's 4 chances, 4 potential hits on a unit that can only take 2 hits. Because if you take 2 hits, this unit is eliminated. So charging this elite infantry, I'm not going to do that. It's just not worth it to me. Not right now, anyway. As long as that elite infantry is on that hill, he's pretty well protected. Honestly, I think what I'm going to do is probably come down here. So I think what I might do, I think I could have, let's say, maybe this Highlander charge this line infantry, and then maybe, if that succeeds, then I could have maybe this Highlander charge this one. Or even if, let's say that if this one failed to do anything to this one, then I could also probably bring this one down to attack again. So I think the better strategy here for me is going to be to attack this flank over here. I think I'm going to do that. So the way it's going to work is, it's for this Highlander to charge. If we go look, it's 2 cap to do his charge. 2 cap, Highlander's charge, and what else? We have to deduct that from our caps. Let's do it. 1, 2. So he's going to charge. This Highlander charges. Now, this is line infantry, and it has to pass a morale check. There's no bonuses. It's clear terrain, so he simply rolls a d6, and he needs a 3 or less to pass the morale check. If he passes, he gets to return defensive fire. If not only does he not return defensive fire, but he will have to retreat. So let's see what he gets. A 2. He actually passes his morale check. So he does get to conduct defensive fire. So this line infantry is going to fire at that Highlander. So line infantry at range 1 has to get a 7, 8, or 9 to hit. So he's going to roll 3 d10s, and hopefully he'll get a 7, 8, or 9. So that looks like an 8 and a 9. So that's 2 hits. And I think he just eliminated the first unit of the game. And this is why I said charging is deadly. If you make sure if you're going to charge, make sure that's what you want to do. Line infantry 6 to 9, and yeah, that's 2 hits. So just like that, and this wasn't even, like I said, this is a line infantry. Wasn't even this elite infantry on a hill, and he managed to completely wipe out this Highlander. Probably not a good choice for the Highlander. So I'm going to put him up here just to keep track of units that have been eliminated. You get a victory point for that. And yeah, so already things are not looking good for these Jacobites. So maybe an ahistorical outcome happening already. So let's clear this. And yikes. So now what? I think I'm going to, like I said, I think I'm just going to have this Highlander. So this can be 2 more. We're down to 1 cap. He's going to do the same thing. He's going to charge. Again, this line infantry has to pass the morale test, so let's do that. He's going to roll a d6. Well, that's a 3. That's a pass, so he gets to return fire. Again, he's a line infantry at range 1, so it's a 7 through 9. That's a hit. So we roll. And it looks like 1 hit. That's a 6. I said 7, right? Yeah, so 1 hit. So he does hit this Highlander, so that's going to flip him. So now the Highlander, it does cut his morale rating in half, but one of the special abilities for the Highlander unit is they still throw the same amount of combat dice. It's not reduced by 1. If this were a line infantry that were down to 1, then you would only throw 2 combat d10s instead of 3. So special rule for the Highlander. But as it is, he now gets to conduct his attack, even though this line infantry will not retreat. So let's see. He is a Highlander charging. And the charge for a Highlander, he needs to get a 5 or higher. So, and he rolls 3 d6s, 5 or higher as a hit. Looks like these are not 10s. These are 0s in this game. So it's a complete miss. So again, not a good way for these Jacobites to start out. So I'm going to mark him as moved. He can't move again. And I've got 1 cap left to use. Well, I think I'm going to bring. I can move this one down 1. I'm going to bring him down this way. And that's going to be it for the Jacobites' first turn. That was brutal. Like I said, charging in this game is very dangerous. I mean, it could have worked out a whole lot different, but yeah, that's bad for the Jacobites. So, and then in the game turn sequence, that was player A's turn. He spent his action points. You check for victory. Again, we're looking for 4 victory points. So basically, they would have to, the Jacobites would have to eliminate 4 units to get that. So no victory yet, and we go to player B. So this is the Williamites, the government troops. They start the scenario, or each turn in the scenario, with 4 cap, and then they'll roll to see what additional they may get. A 1, so that's not good. They get 1 extra cap, so they get 5. So I think what's going to happen here is, I believe this line infantry is just simply going to fire on this Highlander. So he's line infantry, 1 away, range 1. Needs a 7, 8 or 9 to hit. And there's no special. Let's make sure there's nothing special going on for the Highlander unit. When he range 1 away, I don't think so. It's not close combat. Yeah, it's not. So it's just simply an attack at 1 away for this line unit. So this could be bad for this Highlander. He may He may disappear. So 7 through 9, and we roll 3d10s again. 2, 2, and 2. That's a miss, miss, and miss. So I'm going to mark this line infantry as fired. I should have reduced this by 1 because it cost him 1 to do that. So good news for the Highlander. He survived that. And now I think, let's see, this line infantry is 2 away. I don't think he's going to be able to do much from 2 away. Yeah, so if he fires from range 2, he has to get a 9 to hit. You know what, though? I mean, nothing ventured, nothing gained. It's still 3d10. He could roll a 9, and if he does roll a 9, that would eliminate that Highlander. So I think he's going to take that shot. Why not? Let's try it. So we're going to fire on this Highlander. That's 3d10, and he's got to get a 9. And no. So, all right. Moving right along. And I should mark him as moved so we don't try to move him again. Still have 3 cap. I have this Dragoon. I think I might move the Dragoon down to Mackay here. So I'm going to deduct our cap for the movement. It's cost 1 to move. And the Dragoon can move 3, but moving into the woods will stop his movement, so he's not going anywhere. So we'll mark him as moved. And 2 cap left. So if... Well... And I can't stack... You can't stack like units in the same hex, so I can't move this line infantry into either one of these, or into this hex. You can only move 1 this turn. So let me think here. Let's see. 1 cap left. No, 2 caps left. 2 cap. I don't want to bring this elite infantry off this hill. I don't think it's kind of holding. Or maybe I do. If I do, I open him up to attack for sure. I don't think I want to move him yet. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. They still have 4 plus this one 5. So we got to be careful. I don't think this. Yeah, I don't think. Could move up 1. I mean, he can be charged either way next turn by those Highlanders where he's at. Doesn't matter if he's here or here. And I don't really want to do close combat with these line infantry into those Highlanders, because Highlanders get all kinds of special bonuses when they're attacked by close combat. So if I attack them in close combat, not only do they get their defensive fire, they get to fire back close combat dice. So it's simultaneously your fire. So it's kind of a double whammy if you want to do close combat with a Highlander. Not a good idea. 2 cap. I don't have to spend them. I could just call it here. Hate to waste cap though, because it can be precious to get sometimes. Hard to get. I think I'm gonna. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take this guy and move him up 1. So that's going to be his move, and I am going to just toss that one away. I'm not going to do anything. That's it. Done for the Williamite. So that's the end of turn 1, because we've gone through player A and player B. Check for victory. We're not anywhere near that yet, so that will advance the turn marker to 2. And we just simply go back to player A, the Jacobite side, and they get their automatic 3 for the beginning of the turn, and then we'll roll to see what else they get. They get a 1, which we know from before. That's going to be only 1 extra cap from the chart there. So they get 4. That's bad, bad, bad. This is really bad news for these are some lower rolls. You need, like I said, they really need the cap to move around. They really needed to roll high there. So a Highlander can move one. His movement rating is 1. And you can see that on this chart. Highlander movement rate 1. So, So I think he needs to get out of here. This did not work out good at all. So he can. I'm going to move this guy back 1. Should have deducted my. I didn't remove the. Let's remove these tags from the previous turn showing they moved. And then let's give him 1 for showing that he did in fact move. Now the intent here is I want to get this Highlander, back up to Claverhouse, or have Claverhouse come back this way towards the Highlander, because he can rally him back up to his full morale if he gets down there. So kind of my thought process there. I think I'm going to have... do I charge again with the Highlanders? I think I have to. I mean, it's... let's do it. This Highlander is going to spend 2 cap, and he's going to charge this line infantry. So the line infantry has got to pass his morale check. So he roll. He does, finally. So he gets to fire, gets to return fire. Simply 3 D10s from range 1. So 7 to 9 hit. 7 to 9. And it looks like there's 1 hit. So we rolled 1 9. So he will take a hit. And now he conducts his charge against... And this line infantry will not retreat since he passed his morale check, but he still charges. And it's 5 through 9, I believe. Yes, so he must roll a 5 or higher to inflict a hit. So we roll. And he rolls a 7 and an 8. So that's 2 hits that he inflicts on this line infantry. I'm going to have to grab a lower numbered counter, or a lower numbered morale counter for that line infantry, because it's the counters are 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4 is the one we're using up there. So I'm going to grab one of these line 2s and replace this 3 with that 2. We'll just stick this down here out of the way. And now he's at 2 morale. So he does not get the combat, the -1 die to his combat rolls yet, because it has to be half or greater for him to get that penalty. So the Highlander succeeded in at least inflicting some damage there, but he took some damage himself. So that is that Highlander's turn, leaving me with one cap. I can't charge. I could move. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to move the Dragoon. So I can move the Dragoon. Dragoon can move up to 3. Yeah, movement rating 3. The leader can go 4. I need to get Claverhouse. I need to get him to help to come down and help. Not come down. That's what I don't want to do right now, because he needs to rally these guys. But if you lose Claverhouse, the game ends for the Jacobites. So it's more of a case where I think these units need to get themselves back up here. I think I do need to bring the Dragoon down. I'm going to bring the Dragoon down to... Takes me to 0 cap, but I'm going to bring the Dragoon down to here. That's 2. He was here. 1, 2. I could go 1 more. I think I'm going to do that. Wait a minute. Let's see. Dragoons can charge. And let's see what their damage would be if they charged. Well, they have to get an 8 or a 9 to hit, so that's not so great. What about their firepower from range 1? 8 to 9. Also, close combat's a little better, 7 to 9. So I could bring the Dragoon down to here and try to... Yeah, let's do it. Let's bring the Dragoon all the way down to here. So he was here, and he can move up to 3. 1, 2, 3. So that's a valid move. And I will mark him as moved. And I'm going to bring Calaver House down here. Now, it costs nothing to move a leader. He can go up to 4. So I'm just going to move him to here. Again, trying to get these Highlanders up here so he can rally them back. And that is it for the Jacobite side. Still not even close to victory. And you can see how fast these turns go. I also like this. Another thing I like about this game is just how fast a turn can go. So let's go back to the Williamites. They start with 3. And, oops, we got to come back up here and roll our cap. So they roll a 4. That's going to give them an additional 2. So they start with 5 cap. All right. Oh, and I didn't take the movement markers off again. Let's do that before we begin. So I think in line infantry cannot move and fire. So I couldn't move and then shoot. I don't think. I think they have to be the lighter-footed units. Highlanders certainly could. Highlanders may move 1 hex and fire, or then fire, then move for 2 cap. But yeah, see, light infantry, irregulars, cavalry, dragoons, and hussars. So not line infantry. So they can move, they just can't fire or close combat, either one, since they can only go 1 space. The dragoon, in theory, could. I could have the dragoon run out and charge. And I think in small battles he could reach that Highlander. Yeah, see, he has to be traverse 3 hexes maximum to do a charge. So he could, if I wanted to risk the dragoon, he could. But like I said, well, he's only down to 1. Still, though, charging a Highlander is you're asking for trouble. Okay, so what I'm going to do for starters, I know for sure I'm going to reduce cap by 1 because I want to have this line infantry take a shot at... Oh, now wait a minute here. So we have stacked units. Let me just double check. I think the dragoon would take the hit first. Pretty sure. 99.9% sure that's what happens. That you... that the unit that has the higher morale rating would take the first hit, then it would alternate. And if they were even, then it would, I think it would be up to the player to determine who took the hit. So let's see. Just going to check that real quick. If I can find it in the rulebook. Probably under stacking. And I'm having a hard time finding it for some reason. We get leader rallies, leaders, withdrawals, choosing targets. It's like I always see stacking in here, but now that I'm actually... Okay, here we go. So it doesn't say in the stacking... combat... I know it's in here. If 2 units are in a targeted hex, hits are applied 1 at a time to the current highest morale point value unit. Owning player decides if tied. So he's still going to take the shot, I think, because he could hit the dragoon. So let's try it. This is a ranged shot from 1 away. Line infantry, he's got to get a 7, 8, or 9 to hit. And he fires. So 7, 8, or 9. He does get 1 hit. That 1 hit will be applied to the dragoon. So we're going to flip the dragoon and mark this line infantry unit as fired. So now we have 4 cap left. I am going to spend a cap and move this line infantry forward. I am going to spend another cap and move this line infantry forward. So this is interesting. I didn't think the this battle would go quite this way. Of course, it's not over yet. And this elite infantry, I'm going to bring this line infantry up to here. And I'm going to bring... what am I going to do? I'm going to bring this line infantry up to here. That is going to end the Williamite's turn. We're down to 0. Let's go ahead and pull these markers off. Still no victory conditions to worry about. We simply go on now back to the Jacobite side. So we start with 4. And we roll for the extra. God, my gosh. This is hurting because the Highlanders they need to use 2 cap to charge, and getting a 1 cap on top of the 4 that's making a huge difference in this game for the Jacobites. So, oh boy. I'm gonna move this Highlander. Oh, I'm gonna move this. I'm gonna deduct a cap. Move this Highlander to here. So him is moved. I am going to have this Highlander is going to charge this line infantry. So that's going to be 2 cap. He charges. The line infantry has got to roll now a 2 or a 1 or 2 because his morale's been reduced. So he's going to roll and see if he passes his morale check. He does. I tell you what, the dice are completely against the Jacobites in this game. This is crazy. So he does survive his morale check at a 2. So he does get to fire at this Highlander. So it will be at, he will get to roll 3 d10s because it's only he's only 1 point reduction. And so when you're playing a scenario, now these line infantry units, they started at 3. These line infantry units go all the way up to 4, but for scenario purposes, you can never go higher than what you start with. So the 2 here is not half strength. That's why I'm not getting the reduced die. He's down to 2 from 3, so he's not at half. So he will get to fire at that Highlander 3. Line infantry 3d10, and he's got to get a 7 through 9 will be a hit. So let's give him his attack. That's a 1, a 0, and a 4. Well, he missed. That's good news for the Highlander. So now the Highlander rolls 3d10, and he's trying to get a 5 through a 9. And so he gets 2 hits. So 2 hits will be enough to eliminate that infantry unit. Finally, the Highlander, the Jacobites are successful and eliminate this line infantry. That will give them 1 victory point. And so now this Highlander, because he charged, he must advance into that hex that he just emptied. So we're going to mark him as moved. And we still have 2 cap. I think I'm going to move this Highlander. It's getting interesting down here still. Really, I need to start bringing... I don't know what I need to start bringing. I'm going to move this Highlander. We need to get back up here to get him rallied. So I'm going to deduct 1. Well, wait a minute. Do I want to charge again? I'm considering a charge this way. Charging this line infantry. Kind of weakens me up here. I'm kind of weak up there anyway. It's either I charge this one or I move this guy back, hoping that I can get Claverhouse to rally these guys. And having these two full strength, or full, not strength, these are not strength points. Having these two line infantry units at their full morale is not good down here if these guys reduced so much. Let's get crazy though. I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to have this Highlander. This is going to waste my 2 caps. Not waste them, but I'm going to use those 2 caps. He's going to charge this line infantry. So again, this line infantry has to pass the morale check for this oncoming Highlander unit. 3 or less. Okay. He passes, so he gets to return fire, defensive fire. Starting to get this memorized. I think it's 7, 8, or 9. It is. So 7, 8, or 9, he will get a hit. And he rolls a 7 and a 9. That's 2 hits on this Highlander. That will eliminate this Highlander. So, ouch. That's why charging is very difficult in this game. So that now he has 2 victory points. Victory points for the Williamites here is not doing a lot of good. It's just they really just need to prevent the Jacobites from inflicting damage on them, which they're doing, and if they can, eliminate Claverhouse or reach turn 10. So, okay. That's going to do it for the Jacobites, player A's first part of this turn. Now we go over to the Williamites. They start with 3, and they will roll their cap die. They get a 2, which I think will give them 2. It does, so they get 5. Okay. I think they actually have these Jacobites on the run now. So this line infantry is going to open fire again. So let's reduce this by 1. He's going to open fire on that Highlander unit. At a range of 1, we're still at 7, 8, 9 will be a hit. So clear that. He fires and gets, looks like 1, 9. That's a 0, a 5, and a 9. So he does inflict a hit. That's enough to kill that unit. Wow. And I forgot to remove my turn marker, so we're just simply going to move him as he already moved to get that off of there. And there you go. Now, I think when you fire, can you choose to advance? Let's look that up. Like I said, this is my first game. This is a learning game. I think this is one of the learning, I think it's one of the learning scenarios they recommend, or one of the scenarios they recommend for learning. So yeah, fire combat, line of sight hasn't been an issue here. Advance after combat. If the defender is eliminated by an adjacent attacking unit in a fire combat, the attacking unit may advance. So I could choose, because that Highlander was in this hex, he you know what? I am going to advance him. So let's advance him. He can do that. That's a legal move, so we advanced him. And that was his move. So now, now I'm going to have this line infantry. Let's reduce another cap. He's going to fire on that Dragoon. And let's see, for firing on a Dragoon, does the Dragoon have any special things we should be aware of? May flee from fire combat. So, contingent, of course, upon a morale check. So, I think what that means is if, since we are targeting this Dragoon, I'm going to move him up here so I know that's what he's doing. If he's targeting this Dragoon, if this Dragoon passes his morale check, I think it means he can withdraw before taking that fire. Let's see, units may be called upon to make morale checks. So this tells us how. So I probably need to kind of scroll down to where they talk about special units. Dragoons. And withdrawal. So, okay, retreat, withdrawal. Tells us which direction. If the target is a horseman, horseman may withdraw 1 hex and avoid a charge. Well, we're not worried about charge. I could. I don't see it here, where it talks about fire combat, and that did say fire combat, right? May flee from fire combat. So it tells me that that is what's happening here. They can possibly flee from this attack. Dragoons, here we go. They may withdraw from fire combat with a successful morale check. Cavalry do not have this ability. If the attacker declares fire combat and the targeted horsemen withdraw, the attacker may still conduct fire if it is in range. So they could fire from, wouldn't be a range of 1. If these guys flee, it could be a range of 2. So they're going to do that. They're going to fire on the Dragoons. I already deducted the cap for that. So the Dragoon has to pass his morale check, which at this point is a 1. I don't think there's any modifiers here. It's not close combat. Not a charge. Yeah, so, yeah, okay. So they got to pass the morale check, which in this case, they've got to roll a 1. So here we go. Morale check for that Dragoon. He rolls a 6. That's about as bad as he could do. He does not pass his morale check, so he has to stand here and take that fire. And so he, I don't think, gets defensive fire because he didn't pass his morale check. And I think, I tried to withdraw. If you try to withdraw, I don't think you get to try to, I don't know if you get to still do the defensive fire check. I think it's just the 1 morale check. Doesn't really say. It says that they may withdraw if a successful morale check is made. So I don't think they get any other additional defensive fire here. I think it's, so this line infantry unit is going to fire at range 1, and again they need to get 7, 8, or 9. So they roll 3 of these. Only need 1 hit. And there it is. So they roll an 8, and that's going to eliminate this Dragoon. This is either I'm doing something horribly wrong, and this is a learning game. Please let me know if I am, or this is just some bad die rolls for the Highlanders here. So he moved, he fired, and we still have 3. At this point, I'm going to take this Dragoon, and a Dragoon can move 3, and I'm looking at the wrong battles chart. And remember, we want to look at the small battles chart. Yes, his movement rating is 3. It'll cost him 1 to move. 1, 2. I'm going to have him go 1, 2, 3, because Calaver House is over there in the open, which I didn't really notice. Well, actually, he wasn't so much in the open, but he is now after those attacks. So that should have brought that down to 2. I still have 2 left. I'm going to bring this line infantry up. Let's deduct it. I'm going to bring this line infantry up 1. And I am going to move Mackay. Remember, he can move up to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to move Mackay up to here. I'm amazed that I can do that. I really would have thought that it would have been a whole lot more carnage down here for the Williamites. 1 cap left. And it's not looking good for the Jacobites. So I think I could store this cap. Mackay is at 1, so I think I could store the cap. Costs nothing to do that. Let's do it. So this is what I'm going to use to show what I'm storing. So we're going to store that cap for next time. So let's do that. And that is going to be it for the Williamites. Again, check for victory. Not yet. And we move the turn to 3. Is this turn 3 or 4? I want to say this is 4, and I forgot to move it. I think this should be turn 4. So let's move it. I don't think it matters much at this point. All right, so going back now to the Jacobites' turn, they get their 4 to start with, and they roll for their extra cap. I think that's it. It's a 4. I think it's 2. It is. So they get 2. That's a little better than last time. And what are they going to do? So first and foremost, I am going, and he's in trouble sitting out here. I'm not gonna lie. He is in some serious trouble. I wanted to rally this guy, but he's on his own now. Screw it. I'm gonna move Claverhouse. I think he needs to move back up here. 1, 2, 3. And I forgot to move my markers again from the last side. All right, so this is crazy. This is not how I thought it would go. So he's going to move 1, 2, 3. I'm going to move him into here. Nothing to do that. And now this Highlander can close combat this line infantry. So if we do a close combat, this is where the Highlanders excel. So that's a 4 through 9. It will be a hit. Close combat. Must be when it charged, targeted or not targeted. So now I believe that this is close combat. So I believe that let's look at how many caps is that for close combat. This will be cap if adjacent to enemy units may declare close combat. And the Highlanders, it costs 2. So they're going to do that. We're going to spend 2, and they're going to close combat that line infantry. And I believe that they still need to pass their morale check, and they still they would still get to have their defensive fire. So let's see if these line infantry pass their morale check. They're not damaged, so they got to get a 3 or less. They get a 4. They failed. That's not good. So they will not get to do any defensive fire, and they will have to retreat. So the Highlander close combats comes charging in, and 4 through 9 is a hit. That is 3 hits. So that is enough to just completely eliminate this line infantry. So finally, and of course, because it was a close combat, they do advance. They have to advance. And that's their move. And so that gets them an additional victory point. They only need 2 more. They could pull this off. And we still have 2 cap. This Highlander, did I move him and forget to put the marker on him? I can't remember if he moved. I want to think that I didn't move him. I can't remember. Darn it. I'm going to say I didn't move him. I'm going to bring him up 1. That will reduce the cap. And now I think this Highlander is going to, wow, this is not good. He cannot join these guys in this hex. I think he's just going to charge. He's going to charge this line infantry. It's going to cost him 2. Line infantry must pass its morale check. It does. That's good news. And he will get to return fire. 7 through 9 hit. And that's only one hit, so that will inflict 1 morale point loss to the Highlander. And he now conducts his charge, which is at 5 through 9 as a hit. That is 2 hits, and that will take this line infantry down to, let's see, that'll take him down to, I need to grab a line infantry marker that's reduced. I did say 2 hits, right? 2 hits will take him down to 1. And we'll get this out of the way. And he does not have to retreat. So that was this Highlander, leaving me with 1 cap, which I can't really do anything with. I can store it, I suppose. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll store his cap. I can store up to 2, but it only has the 1. So that is the Jacobite's turn. We'll get these turn move markers off. And we go over to the Williamites. And so they get 3 because that's 3 because that's what they get at the start of the turn. Plus they held over 1. I'm going to put this here. They've got to spend that. And they roll for any extra. They roll a 1, so that's 4. Plus this one is going to give them 5. Well, let's leave it there. Let's leave it at 4 and 1, so I can deduct this one first. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? This line infantry is going to open fire on this Highlander. Why not? So we're going to spend that 1 that we held over. And he's going to fire at range 1 on that Highlander. So 7 through 9 will be a hit. So he hits, that's 1 hit. So he gets 1 hit on the Highlander. And that was his move. 4 cap left. So I'm going to have, now this line infantry has been reduced, so he would only get to throw two D10s if he attacks. So let's start over here. Let's have this line infantry is going to fire on this Highlander. Let's expend that cap, and he's going to shoot at that Highlander. Still 7, 8, or 9 hits. That is 1 hit, so that is enough to eliminate yet another Highlander. Oh my gosh. And I think I forgot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I forgot to give them a victory point for someone there. So, and he will choose to advance. And that was his move. Okay, so now, this Dragoon, I'm just going to have him move up 1 to here and do nothing else. And I'm going to have this line infantry move back here with Mackay. So that's another one. So that leaves me 1. And I'm going to have this line infantry take a step forward. That's it. That's going to be it for the Williamites. We will take these move tokens off. We will check for victory. Well, they're doing so far so good. They seem to be preventing the Jacobites from getting a victory. But the game continues because we're not at turn 10. And Claverhouse is still out there. And we advance the game marker up to 5. So, again, these guys will start with 4 plus the 1, and we'll roll for additional. Yet another one. Wow, they're really getting some horrible rolls here. So yikes. I don't really, this is not good. Well, what to do? What to do? Retreat is the answer, but I don't think there's any mechanism for retreating. Let's see. This Highlander can only move one, and the leader can move up to four. One, two, three. He can go in the corner and hide, I guess. He really needs to rally some people though, but he can't really do that. By being in the same hex as this Highlander, he does reduce his actions by his cap actions by one. Not going to matter a whole lot here though. Hmm. Let's just get let's get Claverhouse out of here. He's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. He's going to run away. This Highlander is going to close combat that line infantry. Why not? So close combat is going to be 4 to 9. So this line infantry must pass his morale check. He does, and he gets to return fire. This is crazy rolling. So he returns fire from range 1, 7 through 9. That's one hit. So that's one hit on the Highlander. Highlander now gets to roll his attack, and I think I said 4 through 9. Close combat, 4 through 9. So that is one hit. That will reduce this line infantry down to 2. Because that's one hit. That's his move. That should have been that. This Highlander, there's a Dragoon there. He can fire. He can fire. He hits on a 9. I believe the Dragoon would get an opportunity to withdraw. We just looked that up. Or does he want to just move slowly? No, let's just have him fire. He's gonna go down swinging. He's gonna fire at the Dragoon. So the Dragoon has to do a morale check. And he gets a 1, so he passes his morale check. And I think we said that means he gets to withdraw, right? Yeah, so the target may still conduct fire combat though. So he can withdraw. So he's going to withdraw to here. And so this Highlander, can he shoot 2 away now? He can, but he only rolls 1 D10 and he has to get a 9 to hit. So he does, and I thought that was a 9. He gets a 6, so he does not hit, does not advance. Complete miss, and didn't deduct that, so we do that now. And this Highlander is going to do the same thing. He's just going to close combat that line infantry. Why not? Why not? So he's going to roll. The line infantry checks, does his morale check, fails, so he does not get defensive fire. Good news for that Highlander. And he will have to retreat, so the Highlander gets to use all 3 of his D10s, and this is a close combat, so we're back on that 4 to 9. And that's 3 hits. So he actually destroys that line infantry. Wow. So, and he can advance, and he will choose to do so. So, well, he has to advance, really. So, and that should have been a reduction up here. And so that is another victory point. So actually, they're 1 victory point away from winning this thing, right? I don't think its time has to run out. Yeah, 10 turns or less. So really, they just need that one more victory point. So that I'm not gonna, well, we can store 2 caps. So that would be kind of, what am I trying to do here? There's a way of setting the D6. I'm forgetting my commands in, there it is. So we want to store 2. We'll clear that because Clapperhouse can store 2. And that's going to do it for the Highlanders this turn. Control now goes over to the Williamites. They start with 3. We roll for the extra. 3 is going to give them an extra 2, so they're at 5. And here we go. This line infantry is going to fire on this Highlander from range 1. Still 7 to 9. That's a 3, right? Yep. So that's 1 hit, which is just enough to kill it. So he will fire and kill that Highlander. He chooses to advance. And that will deduct 1 from the cap, and he moved. These Dragoons are going to the Dragoons are just going to move up 1. That's another cap. I think they could also, for the cost of another cap, they could also fire. If they spend 2 caps, yeah, so why don't we do that? Let's have them move 2 and fire. So the Dragoon is firing at the Highlander from 1 away, so he has to get an 8 or a 9 is a hit. So he's got to get an 8 or a 9. Misses, so he completely misses. And I'm going to have, since they did not move, I believe it's spend 1 cap. No, yeah, all right. It's 1 cap to, now see, it doesn't say here, but I'm pretty sure it cost 1 cap to rally, to bring back 1 morale point. And this is kind of the quibble I had with the rules. It really ought to be on this chart too, that you do have to spend, a cap to get that rally back. Make sure I'm not mistaken. Where's rally? Rally. Close combat? No. Should be in here. I do like the rule book. Don't get me wrong. It is very concise. Just some of the information is kind of scattered a little bit, but it's a well-written rule book. So it cost 1 cap to recover an MP. So should say that there, but it doesn't. So I'm going to spend another cap, and this will flip this line infantry back to 2. And that's all these 2 can do this turn. They can do nothing else. I still have 1 cap remaining. We will just move this line infantry forward. And that is going to end the Williamites' turn. We do a check for victory. No, but things are looking rather grim for the Jacobites. Turn marker advances to 6. And we go back to the Jacobites. So they have 2. They start with 4. They roll for additional. I think that's 2 again. So it's going to be additional 2. And first and foremost, all they've got to do is kill 1 more, 1 more victory point, and they actually win this. So I'm going to have these Highlanders are going to close combat these Dragoons. Let's try it. It's all or nothing at this point. So close combat, I think we said was 2. It is. So 2 cap. That's this. And they're going to close combat. So the Dragoons have to Pass the morale test. I don't think there's any special close combat thing going on here. Yeah, close combat. May withdraw from infantry close combat. Morale always 4. Morale always 4. I guess they get a 4? Is that correct? I don't remember seeing that in the rule book. It's telling me that they can... is that saying that if you are a horse unit and you withdraw, it's an automatic 4? If an infantry declares close combat on light footmen or horsemen, then they may withdraw by passing a morale check. Before making the check, the player must announce they're withdrawing. Or if they will stay and perform defensive fire. If you fail the withdrawal attempt, you do not get the defensive fire. Dragoons and Hussars, for the purpose of withdrawing from close combat, have a morale value of 4. So yeah, that's... You know what, though? Do they really want to withdraw here? I don't think they do. Because, yeah, they want to get rid of these Highlanders and win this battle. So they're not going to withdraw. They're going to stand and try to perform defensive fire. And I think... I still think they have to pass the morale check, though, for that defensive fire. I don't think withdrawal is quite the same thing as standing and defending. So I think they're going to have to pass their morale check. So here we go. So that they're at 2. They roll a 1. So they do. They do get their defensive fire. Dragoons firing at range 1. So they got to get a 8 or 9. And they do not. So it's a complete miss. So the Highlanders do get to fire their 3. It is a close combat. So again, 4 through 9 hit. That's 2 hits. That is enough to kill that Dragoon. And you know what? That's enough to get into the victory. Wow. So they do have to advance, and well, we'll move this guy this way, and that's it for the Highlanders. They check for victory, and they have 4. So, wow, what a game! That I did not think that the Jacobites even stood a chance there. Seems to me like the Williamites did really, really good. Wow. So there you go. That's Horse and Musket. That's the Killiecrankie battle scenario. Really fun game. Really fast pace. A lot of thought goes into this. You really have to think about what you're going to do. And this is just the basic rules. There's no optional rules I'm using here. Volume 1, there's a Volume 2, a Volume 3. There's another one coming out as they move forward in time with these scenarios. I think we're getting up into, I think the next one's probably around the 1800s, Civil War times, which will be awesome. Looking forward to that. Maybe it's Revolutionary War times. I can't remember. But extremely fun game. Really having a good time with this one. And I hope you enjoyed watching me go through this. Please leave comments below. And as always, thank you for watching.